Hello there, Alaskans, wherever you are. Welcome to the Must Read Alaska Show. Coming to you from somewhere in Alaska. This is the place where we talk about, you guessed it, Alaska. Where we keep the mainstream media on their toes and where we are standing up for what's right in a world run by leftists. You can find out more by heading over to mustreadalaska.com and also checking out the Must Read Alaska YouTube channel for some really great content. But first, let's get this party started.
Well, welcome everybody to the Must Read Alaska Show. I'm your host, John Quick. We got some exciting guests today, and we are so excited for everybody that's going to be listening in today on Facebook Live and also throughout the next couple days when you tune into iTunes and Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and all the other channels that we're on. So we really appreciate folks tuning in and listening to the Must Read Alaska Show. Suzanne and I have found it a great joy over the last year and a half. When we started the show, we didn't know what to expect, and it's grown to be a bit of a beast in a good way. And yesterday we were number 10 on iTunes in the country of Spain, which is super random. So apparently we're very popular in Spain. And so thanks everybody for tuning in. I want to thank our sponsor host, our show sponsor host, which I can't believe we have a show sponsor host. Or a show sponsor for the show, and that's Charlie Pierce for Governor. We want to thank Charlie Pierce for Governor. He has sponsored the show, the Must Read Alaska Show, and he helps get conservative news through all the nooks and crannies of Alaska. So we are pretty excited about that. And before I talk much more, which I could probably talk about Alaska politics all day long, and usually we have kind of political guests on this show, which is what we're known for. Today, I have a very special treat for our guests. I have Jennifer, who is the executive director of the Freedom House in Soldotna, Alaska. Jennifer, welcome to the Must Read Alaska Show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm just so excited to be speaking across the state at what's going on here in Soldotna.
That's awesome. Not only speaking across the state, but apparently in Spain as well. So
I love it.
You are the executive director of Freedom House in Soldotna. So Jennifer, you're on the Must Read Alaska Show, and the segment that I do is called 5 Questions. I get to ask you 5 questions and just kind of give you an opportunity to talk about what you do. But before we go into that, tell our listeners just a little bit about who you are and what you do without giving away too many of the questions that I'm going to ask here down the road. Assume that our listeners are just kind of hearing from you for the first time. So give them a little sneak peek of who you are.
Yeah, so I was born here locally in Soldotna, Alaska, raised, went to high school here, grew up in Sterling, and ended up finding myself lost in addiction about my junior year of high school. And that addiction here locally just lasted for almost 10 years. And so you're going to hear about my darkness as well as what I'm doing now in the same community that I was lost in, and now I get to be that light in. But I have an amazing husband of 16 years. I have 4 beautiful children. I love Alaska. I love camping, fishing, hunting. I do it all. We love the mountains. We love the fires, and it's just an amazing state to be found in and get to advance the recovery community here in Alaska. So that's a little bit about me and kind of the idea of Freedom House, where it came from. Like I said, just being lost for so many years. I had been to 3 inpatient rehab centers by the time I was 26 years old. I had overdosed 5 different times, landing myself in hospital beds. I had tried to take my own life that very last time because I didn't think there was any hope of getting out of my drug and alcohol addiction. It had completely consumed me. My husband and I were getting a divorce. He was taking the kids and moving back to the state of Ohio, where he's from. And I was just a hopeless wreck. And he dropped me off at that 3rd inpatient treatment center here locally in Soldotna. And I just remember fully surrendering and just being like, I cannot do this on my own anymore. I'm not strong enough. I don't have enough willpower. I can't, but God can. And so that's where June 26, 2009 is my sobriety date. I'm going to be celebrating 13 years here in just
Congrats.
months. Thank you. Of complete sobriety from every substance you can think of under the sun. I mean, my addiction started with Oxycontin pills and then turned into heroin and everything else you could think of. And just been living a life of freedom and wanting to share with. It just would break my heart. I got involved in prison ministry here locally for 7 years, was doing prison ministry, and just seeing these women that I went to high school with and used to party with, and they're still just stuck in the chains of addiction. And so I just knew that we needed to open a home. A women's home is where my heart started, for these women, these moms, these princesses that were wanting to get sober, but had no safe place to do it and had nowhere to go. And so that's where the vision of Freedom House came to be. It was 2017. I Googled how to form a nonprofit, had no
Nice.
idea what I was doing, but I did know that I was supposed to open a home for these women that wanted help. And so with Google and God, we just seen miracle after miracle happen. And we got this. I'm actually sitting in my office in what's now called the Women's Freedom House. It's a 5,000 square foot home here in Soldotna. We have 8 beds. We have 2 apartments here for moms with kids that can live here in recovery. And what we do is a very rigorous accountability program with them, so they can live with us up to 12 months. We've got an application online. Anyone can apply. The key hurdle is you have to be sober. We're a long-term recovery resident, so you got to be sober, be able to pass a drug test, breathalyzer to move in. And we'll help you get there. If for some reason you're listening and you want this life that I'm talking about, you just give us a call, because we have resources across the state, but also nationwide as well, that we can help get you detox, get you sober, get you plugged into treatment or housing. That's part of the staff job. When this home first started, it was just me on staff, because it was just the vision. We had no money. We had no idea really what we were doing. And God has just continued to grow it to where today, 5 years later, we have 9 paid staff and we have 22 committed volunteers every month that makes these homes run.
That's pretty amazing. If folks are just now listening in, you're thinking, holy crap, what did I get myself into? I just heard the word cocaine and Oxycontin and jail ministry, and you're used to hearing about politics. Well, I want to just let folks know that are listening that I got Jennifer Waller here, who's the executive director of Freedom House, which is a addiction recovery ministry, to kind of put into perspective. And she not only founded this ministry, but she's also the executive director. And she's a bit of a force to be reckoned with here on the Kenai Peninsula. If she puts her mind to it, you better watch out, because it's going to happen. And so we thank you for being on the show and talking about the Freedom House. My next question to you is this, Jennifer. Folks probably have, maybe heard your story for the first time for the last 5 minutes, and they're thinking to themselves, oh my gosh, this sounds amazing, but this also sounds like it costs a lot of money. Anybody that has had friends or family that have struggled with addiction and been in and out of rehab, they know that these services have real cost to them. Houses cost money, bedrooms cost money, food costs money, any sort of medical treatment costs money. How did you raise the money to do this? And did you get any huge government grants? Because I think that's what a lot of people assume, is just that, Joe Biden's here just cutting you big checks.
You're fun. Like I said, miracle after miracle. So just the women's home, we bought it for $250,000, but it needed $500,000 in renovations before the city would allow us to open. So that's a $750,000 chunk we needed just to open this home. And when the day I signed the dotted line for the property, we had $800 in our bank account. And so just on jumping on the flip of faith, and we absolutely have not to this day got a single government grant. We haven't got any help from the state, from the borough. This has all been done. $469,000 of renovations to this 5,000 square foot home was done in 4 months. completely given by churches in the community, just public donations, people just walking in and handing me a $10,000 check, as we have 25 volunteers here working on the home. And so we got to watch the $500,000 in renovations come to pass in just that 4 months. And the city inspector handed us our permit of occupancy. It was actually May 1st. We're coming right up in just a few days. Will be our 5th year anniversary of being open here at the Women's House, done completely off of donations.
That's awesome. So folks that are listening, they're probably thinking, oh my gosh, I need to figure out how Jennifer does this, because I think a lot of times in communities across Alaska, it's tough to raise money. And it goes to show that if you have somebody that's passionate about what they're doing and can communicate it well, there's people in the community that are willing to help, whether it's literally paint the house or, donate some food or cut a check for even $10. All people are willing to do it if there's vision behind what you're doing. So kudos to what you're doing, because almost everybody on the Kenai Peninsula has heard of the Freedom House, and that goes to show of the passion and the influence that not only you have, but your staff and your volunteers have. So awesome work.
Yeah.
My next question is this: what I'm sure you've had ups and downs in the 5 years. You're dealing with real people, real problems. And so what are a couple, maybe one or two accomplishments at Freedom House that you're most proud of, and why?
Yes, for sure. That very first 12 months that the Women's Freedom House was open, I'll never forget this. We seen 42 children reunited with their moms in
Wow.
1 year. And that's out of state custody care, the OCS system. Some of them family members had and were raising. In just 12 months, 42 kiddos. That is a huge restoration number. And now times that by 5 years, I think one of the most rewarding parts of this job, if you want to call it passion ministry, is watching families and marriages and children be reunited with loved ones that were so desperately broken and lost in their addiction. Just like my story, we were getting a divorce. He was taking the kids because I was absolutely unsafe and unfit to be a mother, and then allowing healing and restoration over the first couple years of recovery. And now I raise my kids full time, and I'm still married to my husband. Like, I got to watch it in my life, and then I get to watch it play out here. So that's one of just the most amazing, rewarding parts of this. And another thing I'm super proud of is about 2.5 years into starting the Women's House, I was out at Wildwood speaking at a men's conference there, and the guys would raise their hand and say, well, what about us? What about the men? We're getting ready to get released. We need somewhere safe to go. We want to be discipled. And so I went to my board of directors and said, hey, what about opening a men's house? And so we started looking for a home. We located one across town that's actually right behind the police department. I love the location. But we located this home, and again, it was $250,000 for the home, and it needed $300,000 in renovations for us to open. So another $500,000 project, and we're operating at that time at $10,000 a month budget. And again, we don't take insurance, we don't get money from anywhere other than donations. And so it was another just jumping off the cliff of faith of signing this $500,000 dotted line as we're operating over here full time. And in just 12 weeks, God just brought all the provisions in. We completed the 300,000 renovations and opened in March of 2019, our men's Freedom House that has 11 beds. What we realized pretty quickly is the need for men in our community is much greater. And so we have 8 beds over here, up to 11 beds over there. And we're full at both houses right now, running full steam. We have throughout the whole pandemic, just, addiction doesn't slow down. It doesn't discriminate. It actually over the pandemic, as all the statistics are coming out, unfortunately, addiction has almost doubled. People that weren't alcoholics before the pandemic are now and seeking help. And so we'll just continue to to grind it here. And even though we're located in Soldotna, anyone can apply. We've flown people in from Colorado, Washington. We have someone applying, I believe, from Indiana right now. It don't matter where you're at. Our beds are open for anyone seeking recovery or help out of addiction.
That's awesome. For folks that are just listening, I got Jennifer Waller here. She's the executive director of Freedom House in Soldotna, which is an addiction recovery center that she not only founded, but is the executive director of. She built it, bootstrapped it, had, I think you said $80 in your bank account when you first, 8 or 80, I can't remember what you said, but
800, yeah.
800 when you first signed the lease for a $300,000 house. So that's, or not lease, but purchase for a $300,000 house. So talk about some faith. Tell me a little bit about how faith plays a role in what you do, because I think, there are addiction recovery places all over Alaska, as you know, and a lot of the times if they're attached to a hospital, they have to kind of steer away from the faith aspect of it. Does it play an important role in what you do? And talk to me a little bit about that.
Absolutely. These homes are built on faith, as you just heard. Underneath the sheetrock in both of these homes, we have scriptures written on all the 2x4s, because when we had to remodel, we had to tear down the walls and rebuild hallways and staircases. And so we have faith in the foundation of these homes, but also they're ran by faith. Some days we don't know. Right now we operate on a $22,000 every 30 days. I write checks for $22,000 a month to pay the bills to keep these homes going. And a lot of them are written on faith, and God comes through every single time. And so in my own addiction recovery story, as you guys heard, I was lost in addiction for 9.5 years, tried to take my life. I was hopeless, overdosed 5 times, wearing heart monitors because my heart was about to explode with all of the drugs I was putting in my body. And it wasn't until June 26th, actually, I took a whole bunch of pills that day and didn't wake up for 3 days, tried to take my life. And on June 28th, 2009, I hit my knees in that rehab center right up the road and just said, I surrender all. I give you my life, Lord, use me as you will. And here I am 12 years later, just living, I call it the dream, but it takes a lot of faith and a lot of encouragement from the community around me to keep fighting the good fight. Because like you said, addiction is real. It's come to kill, steal, and destroy. We have buried, unfortunately. We've only been open coming up on 5 years next week. And we've been to 3 different funerals of past residents that have lived with us and ended up going back out and using. And it's not a game, especially with this fentanyl that's hitting our streets here in Alaska. We had 6 overdose deaths in 1 week up in the valley from this horrific batch of heroin that's hitting the streets. And so we take our job very seriously and try to make sure we give our residents the best setup for success for long-term recovery as possible.
That's awesome. So what's maybe a good piece of advice you'd give somebody who, maybe it's a mom and dad, or dad, maybe it's an uncle or an aunt who has somebody in their family that's addicted? I feel like oftentimes you don't know what to do, because you feel like, am I enabling? Am I not? What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to leave them alone? Am I not supposed to leave them alone? What's something that you tell people on a regular basis in terms of some advice you'd give?
Yes. Well, number one, if there's still breath, there's still hope. So don't give up, even if they're laying in a hospital bed from a detox. Like, if they are still breathing, there is still hope. So don't give up hope on them. Number 2, do not quit praying. I mean, I had people praying for me for 9.5 years. On year 2, 3, and 4, I probably would have given up, and they didn't, and they persevered. And so keep praying. If there's still breath, there's still hope. And if someone out there is currently in addiction, what I would say to you is the very first step is to surrender. You got to admit, man, I cannot do this anymore. I need help. And reach out. You can call our office. Our number is 907-260-3733, which spells out free, 260 free. for freedom, you call us and we will pray with you on the phone, or we will hook you up with resources. We have local detox centers. We have treatment centers. We've got applications we can give you and send you, because there is so much help. But the hardest step for you is to actually reach out for that help.
Yeah. What are some future plans for Freedom House? It sounds like you've experienced some significant growth. It sounds like you're at capacity now and probably have a wait list, I assume. What are the future plans for what you have in store in the next couple of years?
Yeah, so we definitely, the board's vision, I operate under a board of directors of 10 right now. We have a pretty solid board, but our vision is an employment piece. The majority of our residents are coming from prison. A lot of them have felonies in their backgrounds. And so getting a job is not the easiest thing. And so we're looking at something like opening a coffee shop, possibly somewhere that Freedom House owns, but we can employ our residents to give them a good 6-month chunk on their resume, so they actually have a resume instead of 14 years of darkness. And so that's really one of my passions for the next year. Hopefully we'll have something open. I also would like to see a Freedom Garage built over on the Men's House property, because man, we're just coming out of a dark winter here in Alaska, as a lot of you know, and these guys are so talented. If we had a shop space for them to work on, do woodworking, work on their vehicles, oil changes, it would just really help pass the long, dark winter months, because the majority of them do not have vehicles or driver's license. And so they're around the house a lot. And so building a shop over there would be amazing.
That's awesome. That sounds like a couple of great ideas to keep people active and not just sitting in a room thinking about what they're going to do for the day. So,
right.
What, if somebody wants to learn about how to donate, maybe somebody's listening in today, and for folks that have just tuned in, I got Jennifer Waller here, who's the executive director of Freedom House in Soldotna, Alaska, which is a faith-based addiction recovery center that she literally built with her 2 hands, along probably hundreds of volunteers.
Yeah.
How does somebody learn about what you're doing? How, you might have somebody listening today that's thinking, I want to write a $10,000 check. How do I get it to her? What are the avenues in which somebody can find you?
Yes, absolutely. So our website is freedomhouse907.com. That's going to be the key. We've got a donate button right on the front page through PayPal, but it also has our mailing address if you want to mail in a check, our phone numbers to the office, our women's house and men's house offices. And we've got Facebook page that I'm super active on, Freedom House Facebook. You can follow the ministry and our outreaches and our fundraisers. We do multiple fundraisers throughout the year as well. And so those are the two best ways to stay in contact.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else you want to share, Jennifer, before we wrap this up? I just want to give you an opportunity to say anything that maybe we missed or forgot to talk about.
Just super excited to continue to show the community that there is hope. As much darkness as there is out there, we are seeing these brave men and women recover every single day. They're getting an outpatient treatment. They're getting jobs. They're getting their kids back. They're transitioning out into our communities in their own apartments. Like, we get to see the good stuff as well. So don't give up hope and keep praying for those loved ones lost in addiction.
That's awesome. So thanks everybody for joining today. And thank you, Jennifer, for joining with us. Folks that are listening to this, let this inspire you to possibly do some good. Jennifer, when she first started this, was addicted. She didn't have real estate degrees or business degrees. Maybe you did, but
nope.
And didn't have, had never built a addiction recovery center, let alone 2. And she put her mind to it and accomplished it. So for folks out there wanting to see change in their community, wanting to see change in their cities, their boroughs, and maybe you're there and you're 9 times out of 10 complaining about stuff, Jennifer got up out of her seat and made a difference. And so I want to encourage folks that are waiting around for folks to make a difference in their community. Don't wait around any longer. You go do it yourself. And so thank you so much, Jennifer, for being that light in Soldotna and on the Kenai Peninsula and literally around the U.S. It sounds, as people come into your addiction recovery center from Colorado and whatnot. So we hope that folks that are hearing about you for the first time check you out and go to your website and your Facebook. So thanks everybody for joining Must Read Alaska. We have our show on Friday. James Baisden will be on Friday morning talking about Alaska politics. Suzanne and I will be back on Monday morning, probably with a new show guest. And I have a very special guest tomorrow and actually Thursday as well. We have a big lineup. Tomorrow I have rock star budgeteer Donna Arduin, who is probably the most famous accountant in the political world for conservatives. And then I have the executive director for the Libertarian Party on Thursday, the entire Libertarian Party, which is very exciting. So can't wait to do that. And we'll see you guys on tomorrow and Thursday and Friday. And hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you soon.